Welcome to Markers and Milestones, where we explore educational opportunities for young men and women from beyond traditional college from a specifically Christian perspective. I'm Lee Bortons, and I'm here with my co-host, Amanda Kleist. Today is Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, and we're joined today by Reverend Robert Ingram. He's the program advisor for the Reformed Classical Education minor at Reformation Bible College. He's a retired headmaster of the Geneva School in Orlando, Florida, and an honorably retired teaching elder in the Presbyterian Church in America. He's also serves as a founding board member and chairman of the Society of Christian Learning and was senior vice president of Ligonier Ministry from 86 to 95. Welcome, Robert. We're so glad to have you, and we'll be calling you Bob. Okay.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. It's a delight to have this opportunity to advance the cause of Christian classical education and to maybe give some ideas or concepts to high school graduates as to what they might be able to do following graduation. And so I would very much like to be able to represent not only Reformation Bible College, but any number of other possibilities that they might pursue.
Well, that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the show. You've done so many things to advance classical Christian education. And so I generally start with the logistics, and Amanda listens and then starts asking more philosophical questions. You seem like you're very eager to share classical education and Christ with us. So I think it's going to be a really delightful conversation. I want to back you up to a little bit earlier time. Ligonier Ministries was one of the first organizations to actually help sponsor classical conversations. There was a little bit of financial, as well as mostly working on with this, books, and R.C. Sproul did a video for us. And so we've just had a good experience with Ligonier. And then with Geneva, of course, we have all kinds of parents who've either been in Geneva and then homeschool or vice versa. We've been a good resource for each other. So I thought maybe you could start with Ligonier and tell our audience what you did there and what you learned from there that you would think would help in the formation of our young children as they become adults.
Oh, I would love to. Dr. Sproul and I were friends 46 years. Right up until the time of his death in 2017. And so my life has greatly been enriched by my friendship with him. In many ways, he has made me a much better man. So when I was there in 1986, I was hired to help reimagine the ministry as it had been from its first 15 years in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, where I spent quite a bit of time, actually, having grown up in Pittsburgh, going to Pittsburgh Theological Seminary and spending many days and evenings at the original Ligonier Valley Study Center. So in 86, when they moved to Orlando and I was pastoring in the Orlando area, I was asked if I would come on staff and help to reimagine the ministry into what it is today. And I had this wonderful opportunity to bring into being certain things. I had the chance to create Table Talk magazine in its current expression. I edited that for a long time. I was able to start and produce his continuing radio program. I was in charge of all the conferencing, local, regional, national, and international. I had the delight of traveling with RC and his wife, Vesta, probably 50 or 60 days a year. And so that was a rewarding opportunity. And then the other aspect of my job was to continue to build out what they had already had as a strong foundation in video and audio recordings. And so my goal was to try and create a systematic theology of probably 7 or 8 divisions or categories of his teaching, so that it would become a more organized, systematic theology that's available for people. So those were the things that I did, and during that
let me stop you there, because some of those resources that are still available we want our audience to know about. So how do they get a hold of Table Talk and subscribe to that?
Well, if they were to contact Ligonier Ministries, just Google that, and that will lead them into any number of opportunities with talking to folks online or just by subscribing to Table Talk Online. There is a small price for that. It's a monthly magazine and it's a rich devotional magazine. Plus, it has many featured articles in it. And I continue to read it 30 years later. I make use of it.
Yeah, it was one of the resources we use with our older children to use to have devotionals with them. So I wanted families to be aware that was still available. You know what, Amanda, I'm missing this empty nesting every time we have a guest speaker on, because I remember the wonderful things I did because I had kids, and now all I do is work. So thanks. So thanks for that resource.
Yeah, R.C. and Vesta were also two of the founders of the Geneva School back in 1993. There were 4 couples and 1 single gal. The 9 of us began that, and it was actually a discussion that came out of Ligonier Ministries, because we were trying to understand, how do people best learn? And being a teaching ministry, we wanted to make certain that folks who were engaged with Ligonier Ministry by table talk or radio or conferencing, that they were actually learning. And as we explored the educational opportunities that people have had through the ages, we kept coming back to classical education. And so we decided that in addition to using more of those aspects in Ligonier Ministries itself, in that one evening when we were talking about this, we decided, you know what, we should just start a school. And so it was Memorial Day evening in 1993. We were together eating hamburgers and having a cookout. And Geneva School was born that evening. We constituted ourselves as a board. And after Labor Day, about 90 days later, we began with 34 students, K through 6. And God has blessed inordinately. School now has 700 students and a 45-acre campus, and it's just a lovely, lovely expression of Christian classical education. And God has allowed us to have a kind of a national and international platform in and through Geneva. So our goal has always been, we're Abrahamic. We've been blessed, and our goal is to be a blessing to other people and to give ourselves away. So that has been what we've attempted to do, and it's just wonderful to see the growth nationally of the entirety of the Christian classical school movement.
So, okay, so Wordworth CC, you're with a classical school, and we're nearing the finish line with our children. What are your suggestions as to how to continue a classical Christian education? What are the questions parents should ask themselves, or how would you guide them to continuing doing what they started so well? And the reason why we ask everybody this question is Amanda and I are so tired of seeing amazing families do great, and then something just happens, their confidence, they lose it, they send their kids to state schools, and then we're wondering why everybody's woke. So we're trying to help people ask better questions as they develop markers and milestones and make these choices. So I know I just said a mouthful, so I'll ask again, help guide that parent who's trying to guide their child.
Sure. Well, there are a number of colleges today that are attempting to continue the Christian classical educational process of kindergarten through 12th grade. I know that Hillsdale, of course, is one of them. Grove City is another. And there are others I can't remember and give a whole listing right now, but
Sure.
Those are 2 that I very much admire. But another is one that I'm now involved with, and that is Reformation Bible College, a college started by R.C. about 11 years ago. It is on the campus of Ligonier Ministries, and they have a small but very tight community of students, about 200 to 250, and that is getting close to the goal of what they would like to do. They don't expect to become a college of multiple thousands, but rather to have a very high intense training opportunity of those students. It's a fully classical curriculum of the humane letters. Now, they do not have math and science, but what they're after is a curriculum that is beautifully classical. I would love to go back to college myself and study there, but instead they've asked me to teach there. Uh, but it's an enviable curriculum that they have. My role over the last year and a half has been to develop a minor in Christian classical education. And so there are 3 classes in Christian classical education, history, and pedagogy that I teach. That, of course, is supplemented by other classes from their overall curriculum for a minor. Then they've asked me to create an internship possibility, and that is being implemented for the first time this coming January with the Geneva School. Geneva School is only about 25 minutes away, and so the students will have the opportunity to intern under mentoring faculty at Geneva beginning this spring. And then they've also asked that I help the students in terms of their preparation for going out and teaching with placement and helping them find positions. I have been able to do that with a number of our students already. And lastly, to help to rebrand the college so that headmasters and academic deans across the country from 700 or more schools know that Reformation Bible College is now producing students who have studied a fully classical curriculum in humane letters in a wonderful Christian community of peers and friends. They've had a minor that they have completed and also an internship. And so I think that that is one great option. I know there are other schools, and I would heartily recommend others who are doing the same thing, but that is an option. And one additional thing that Reformation Bible College does is they offer a 1-year certificate. And so instead of students taking a gap year and maybe finding employment for a year, which would be a valuable thing for students, not only to engage the world a little bit beyond high school and earn some money for college, but if they were to spend that gap year at Reformation Bible College, they would get a very substantial grounding in the great texts, in theology and Bible. And then if they still intended to go to a different college, public or private, they would be that much more grounded in their faith before they make that leap into a large university or something. And I think that they would graduate with that certificate in a manner that would allow them to withstand more of the onslaughts of, a woke environment and professors who would seek to undo a lot of their faith and culture and learning that they're bringing to the college. So those would be some options that I would recommend.
So what do you say to the parent who says, well, my child's been raised as a Christian, they're already strong, they're 18, it's time to send them to the state university, they can handle it?
I would say that that is a bit presumptuous. I'm 72 years old. I don't know that with all of my training and background that I would feel like I could just go into a university classroom today and believe that I could prevail against, a university professor who would, seek to, undo my faith and understanding and belief system. And for an 18-year-old, I think that would be, I think that would be a very difficult thing to place oneself in that position and believe that they already had all the resources that they needed to to stand fast. And so I believe that at least one more year, if not more, would far better prepare them for what is to come if they choose that option.
Yeah, when people want to know how we got to where we are, I say because we sent you away to state schools to be indoctrinated. So of course that's the way you are. We got exactly what we should have expected. So, and each generation was weaker because the culture around them was weaker. And I feel like Table Talk and Ligonier Ministries and what you're doing at Geneva is trying to reclaim the fact that there actually is it is possible to have a Christian culture that can support the ideals of America. So
Right.
so we're trying to steer people away from that as an option. So thanks for kind of echoing us. All right, Amanda, it's your turn. What are you thinking?
Oh, wow. So many thoughts. So, Bob, thank you so much. And I'm going to do a sideways thought. I see that you went to the College of Worcester at one time.
Yes, for 4 years in Worcester, Ohio.
Yep. My uncle was a professor of Spanish and Italian in Worcester, Ohio from 1961. So you may have crossed paths with him at one point. So
we didn't cross paths in the academic classroom. But I was there from 1969 until 1973. And during that time, even though it's a Presbyterian heritage school, given that state of the culture back then, and we won't rehearse all of it, but it was a very difficult time in the culture.
Yes.
There was not even a Christian group on campus. And so I didn't know that before I went there, but God did provide me the opportunity to start a Christian group on the campus, which over the next 3 years grew to about 100 students, and it still survives today. It's smaller today, but I'm still in contact with those more than 50 years later who are still involved in the Worcester Christian Fellowship. So I hope that the influence of your family and mine and others' influence there will continue to have kingdom results.
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to take you back there is the questions that you wished you had asked before you went to that college, because now you have all this hindsight and all this wisdom. What questions would you tell your 18-year-old self or 19-year-old self who made the decision to go to Worcester College to ask about going to college?
Well, I would have asked better questions about selecting the college.
Okay,
I'm the first person in my family to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a rather new experience for us. And many fewer students went to college in 1969 than today. So I was of the understanding that this was a somewhat Christian college, maybe not like a Wheaton or a school, that we would think of today as a Christian college, but I came out of a Presbyterian family and heritage, and I thought, oh, great, this is a Presbyterian school. And surely there will be, a fellowship group on campus. The professors will be friendly towards the Christian faith, and that there will be many, many students who go there because of that. And I will find like-minded fellowship. I didn't. And so I should have asked better questions about the nature of the school, faculty, the world and life views that would be expressed in the academic classroom. I should have asked better questions about the student culture. The student culture at Worcester, I hate to have to admit it, but it was in many ways a very, very difficult place to live. I mean, there was the freedoms that were granted there for drinking, the use of drugs, illicit sexual expressions, and just a general anti-authoritarian attitude on the part of the students towards anybody in authority, professors, administration, certainly the federal government at the time, with all that was going on in Vietnam. And I had no idea what kind of a culture I was entering into. And it was terribly unsettling. That first year was difficult, but God raised up 3 of us that first year, and we prayed a lot, and we tried to find other believers, and we simply didn't among almost 2,000 students. But beginning the next year, my sophomore year, God brought more believers to it. Some became Christians during their college experience there. And eventually, it became a sending place to some very fine seminaries, student ministry opportunities, the Coalition for Christian Outreach, InterVarsity, others like that, Campus Crusade. Students grew in their faith during that time. It was a hothouse environment. Everybody was committed to whatever it was that their world and life view expressed, whether it was, being against the war or for drugs or, for whatever. Those who were Christians were equally as active in their faith. And I know it helped me, and it really prepared me for the work that I've done ever since. But I could easily imagine that I could have utterly failed and walked away from the Christian faith. It was only by the grace of God that he preserved me during that time and used it to strengthen rather than allow me to experience skepticism, doubt, and unbelief.
Yes. And well, we praise the Lord for that, right? So now let me ask you a question about where you are now and the certificate or the Christian classical education program that you are advisor to. How do you help those students who've made the choice to go to this university model with a classical interest and a Christian classical emphasis? How do you help them connect with their local church, not just your chapels in your college, but how do they get connected with the local church in what you do now?
Oh, that's a very fine question. And I really believe that Christian classical education must be an enormous pipeline that leads men and women back into the local church. Christian classical education should not be thought of atomistically, ATOM.
Mm-hmm.
That all we're doing is trying to help secure maturity in the life of an individual believer and another individual believer. That's all true. We want that, but we also want the aggregate of all that. We want people to understand that they're being matured and grown and enculturated into a community of faith. And that community of faith needs to be expressed in and through the local church. And so my intent is to help disciple young men and women so that they will re-engage the local church as leaders, as men and women who get very much involved in the church and who see that the church is God's ordained means by which he is bringing his kingdom to bear. And so I want them to be where we are assured that God's Spirit is most at work. Jesus ordained the church. I want to see the church become that lovely bride that is described in the book of Revelation, spotless and just delightful to the Lord Jesus Christ. And I want it to be delightful for those of us who are part of that visible church. And so I think the Christian classical education has, as one of its greatest ends or its telos of providing the men and women who will provide leadership for subsequent generations into the life of the local church. And so the church where I attend, the church that I had helped to begin 33 years ago, there are probably 30 to 40 students from Reformation Bible College attending that church. And I love that church. On Thursdays, I start to get excited about Sunday morning. And I want Sunday morning to hurry up and come because I'm so enamored with the preaching and the teaching and the community of faith there. And the students from Reformation Bible seem to love it. And they are so well loved by the congregation. I could tell you some stories, but that's what we want. We want our students to fall in love all over again with the bride of Christ. He loves the church, and we need to love it as well.
Yeah, Robert, I think that's really missing in our Christian culture today. And something like Table Talk helped preserve for me and my family is that we really are a beloved bride that's beautiful instead of just this thing you got to go do on Sundays.
Right.
And I don't think pastors really know how to inculcate that into their congregation. So I appreciate your enthusiasm and wanting that for the children. Just knowing that's possible is such a first great step to ensuring that it can happen.
Right.
Amanda, anything else?
Well, obviously there's lots more to talk about, but I think we probably need to know if somebody wanted to come to where you are, some of the time and space and dollar signs involved in all of that, which is usually your question, Lee, but I'm sure there's people curious now.
That's what I was going to ask. Why don't you start first with the certificate program, logistics, and is it residential or online, or how does the certificate work?
Yes, that's a great question, and I have an answer for it. The certificate program can actually be done online. And so the courses needed to fulfill that, courses in great texts, theology, and Bible, are available online, and people can access all of that and receive that certificate without ever coming to Orlando and being on the campus of Ligonier Ministries, where RBC is located. However, I would love to have them on campus. I believe that, if face-to-face kind of teaching is available, then I would take it so far as to say that there is a moral oughtness to have education be done face-to-face. I know sometimes it is impossible, and so God has graciously allowed us to have online possibilities. But if it's possible, and I would say that it would be even good for people to have some measure of sacrifice to make that possible, that they would be on campus and learn within the academic classroom, face-to-face, with professors and within the community of students, because we believe in Socratic dialogue. We believe in following the question and pursue it to its truthful end. Well, that's very difficult if you have no conversational opportunity online. Again, I get that in some cases that is the only option. But 1 year on the campus provides a very different and enhanced, richer and more robust experience of that 1 year than doing it at home.
So what are the two cost differentials then between online only and residential?
I'm sorry, I don't
Okay.
know the answer to that. I do know the Reformation Bible is probably the most affordable college education in the country. And they underwrite the cost of it so substantially that their goal is that no student will graduate with any debt at all. And so a full semester at RBC is about, I wish I knew the exact number, it's about $4,800 a semester, which is, I think, quite a bargain compared to what we find at almost any other college or university. And so it is available to folks, even those who have to work, during their time at RBC. And a number of the students do work in order even to pay that low a tuition bill. But the college provides so many work opportunities, and the students actually get to work alongside of folks who are creating Table Talk Magazine, who are creating the videos of all the folks that are still being videotaped for Ligonier Ministries distribution. And they get to see the ministry in action. They get to be behind the scenes, and the students actually love having the opportunity to work while they're still going to school. And it gives them opportunities to have like a moral imagination as to what they might do afterwards. And some of the students graduate and then stay in their part-time job as it becomes a full-time job. And so we see graduates all over the campus, and some who have moved away and can do some of their work online. So it is affordable, and I would just represent that the most robust expression of education is always face-to-face in the classroom.
Yep. That's why we don't have online education for any of our programs for the children. We're quite happy to do online education for the adults who want additional training as homeschooling parents. But we just feel like it's wrong for kids to be in front of a machine. The Bible says that a student will be like their teacher, and we don't want them to be like plastic boxes.
Yes, well, I thought I would have the freedom to make some of those comments, knowing that. Because you see, what we want in classical education is imitatio, right? Imitation. And it's very difficult to imitate somebody when you only see their head on the screen. We want people that are actually living in and amongst us. You know, the Apostle Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 says such endearing things. He said, you know, we ministered among you as a mother with her loving child, and we were pleased to give you not only the gospel, which would seem like if that's all you gave, Paul, that would be enough, you know. But he said, we were pleased to give you not only the gospel, but our own lives as well. And so we want to give our lives away. We want incarnational presence on the campus. We want to incarnate as much as we can the life of Christ so that they might imitate it, even in the same respect that the Apostle Paul said, imitate me in as much as I am imitating the Lord Jesus Christ. And that requires personal relationships.
All right, I lost it there. So that's great. I mean, so that's where we are, and that's why I asked about being residential or online. The one thing that you can that I think speaks well for an occasional online at that age group is to remember that oftentimes those children who are taking an online gap year or a couple of first-year courses, they're living with their family and their home church, and so they're still getting that mentorship and pat on the back while they're maybe exploring adult options as they figure out what's next. Yes. So there's always good and things that you can find. The problem is when we think that's the only way to do it.
Yes. Sometimes the good competes with the best. And when the best is available to us, we need to reach for that instead.
So, Bob, if I'm a parent and my child is in their last year of a classical school or in Classical Conversations Challenge 4, and I wanted to attend where you are at, what is my next step and by when do I need to do it?
Well, the admissions department would be very pleased to speak with you at probably any time. Maybe Beatty is with the admissions department. If you were to call Reformation Bible College, she and several other members of her department would be pleased to speak with you. There are a number of visitation days during the course of the year. I mean, you could go anytime. and see the college and speak with people. But there are some days where they have 40 and 50 families at a time come on a particular day. The day is set aside and given over to those families. The students can go to class with any one of the number of on-campus full-time PhD professors. They can meet with folks. They will have people like myself spend a couple of minutes representing what I do on the campus. They have students in a panel who talk about what their experience has been so far at Reformation. They have alumni come back and say, here's how the college prepared me for this or that ministry, or this or that vocational choice in life. And it's rather a full, complete picture that is painted for them. I will say the college does not intend to grow into a very large college, about 250 on-campus students. They want, when possible, the brightest and the best to come. Dr. Sproul was always a stickler for academic integrity and the pursuit of excellence. They're continuing in his footsteps in that way. And I can tell you from the students that I've had that I am unbelievably pleased with the students who have been in my classes. And they are eager. Just last week, I taught an intensive class. The students gave up their fall break. The whole class gave up their fall break to come last week. They asked if we could start 30 minutes before class was intended to start. I always bribe my students with, when class is over, if they will stay for about another hour to an hour and a half, that I will buy them any coffee or whatever. The college has this Starbucks-like coffee bar. And so I buy all my students, whatever they want at the end of the scheduled time. And then if they will stay until 5:30, and so from 8:30 in the morning till 5:30 at night, these students are eager to be there. Sometimes I have to shoo them away at 5:30. They've already given up their fall break. They do the same thing for spring. And almost every single student on the way out the door every day thanks me for my contribution that day. And they write some of the finest papers that I could ever hope to receive. In fact, every paper, they have to write 3 major papers for me. And I ask for the best of the best papers digitally. And I use examples of those papers in my consulting across the country now. And I show people, here's what an RBC student is capable of doing in the academic classroom. Here's an example of their writing. Here's their thought process. Here's how thoroughly they understand what it is that we're attempting to do with Christian classical education. And so I'm so proud of the students. They're eager, they're well prepared when they come to RBC, and it's a joy to think of these people eventually graduating and going out representing Christ and his kingdom wherever they're going, whether it's to teach or to be a nurse or a stay-at-home mom or whatever. They're a great group of college students.
Well, it sounds like you're a really great leader of a group of college students. So I appreciate how much work you put into it, Bob. So can you give the parents and our listeners the URL so we know how to get a hold of you?
Well, if they would like to get a hold of me, I would say that if they were to use my email, that would probably be the best way for them to try and contact me at the college.
Would you want them contacting you? I meant more the college, I suppose.
Yes, it really would be better for them to contact me.
We'll protect you.
I'm glad you clarified that. Gosh, I don't want to make a mistake in representing it. I don't have it memorized off the top of my head.
I'll look it up. It's Reformed.
BibleCollege.org, I think,
College.
but
reformbiblecollege.org.
I'm
Yes.
guessing.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time with us. We really appreciate it. And we're just so glad to know that besides, the two you named, Hillsdale and Grove City, they seem to be the only ones people know about. So we're glad to add you to the list of places to recommend. So thank you for being with us, Bob.
And
You're
Bob,
welcome.
I'd like to say to you that actually you have a better understanding of connecting people to the church than the two you mentioned. So as a member of the bride, you're the only one out of the list of three we've talked about today that really has a good bride view of who the church is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for those kind words. Some of that comes because I'm a pastor, and people might say, well, Bob, you're, quote, paid to do that, or say it. Well, I'm not paid anymore as a pastor, I'm retired. But I say that out of a heartfelt expression for what I believe to be the call of God upon our lives. We're supposed to be great men and women of the church. And the church has fallen on hard times. It is fairly weak right now. And if it can be bolstered by the work that we do, discipling students in the classroom for whatever their vocation might be, I am utterly sold out to the prospect that Christian classical education has been brought about by God at a civilizational moment. We need this form of education more desperately than we have ever needed it in the past. And so I believe that it is beginning to grow, and it's not burgeoning yet, but I look forward to the day when it might be a burgeoning movement. But it is catching the attention of people across the church. And I so much believe that our schools must be connected to the value and the work of the local church. And so I don't say it as a pastor. I say it as someone who believes in the church as Christ's bride. And I want us to love the church. And Christ loves the church. Why would we want to love the church? One of the things about Christian classical education is it helps us to have ordinate hearts and ordinate minds. We are to love that which Christ loves, and we are to eschew that which he hates. And Christ loves his church. And so if we're going to align our loves with his, then the church has to be right there in the epicenter of that which we love.
Thank you so much. With those words, we got to go, and it was so good to have you. We'll have you back, Bob. Thanks so much. Bye,
Okay.
team.
Bye.
You are a gracious group of people, and I appreciate this opportunity. Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.